Welcome back. It's time for your daily dose of Cyberpunk news and updates. Today we've got some big ones. We've got Mikel Calise from CD Projekt RED who made an announcement today, something very interesting going on right here. It definitely alludes to the future of Cyberpunk 2077 and possibly even The Witcher 4. More on that in just a moment. Plus, we'll be talking about this one right here from Paolo Sasco from CD Projekt RED as well. And also, this is definitely very interesting. Cyberpunk 2077 should have taken one feature from the Elder Scrolls. What is it? Let's talk about that as well. And then there's a really big game coming up here this year that is going to try not to repeat Cyberpunk 2077's mistake. We're going to be talking about their comments about that as well. And yes, your top comments. So let's dive into this. Hey everyone, what's happening? Overworld Games here. Hope you're doing good, and let's do this. So first of all, let's take a look at what CD Projekt RED is saying out on their Twitter feeds. We go to Mikel of CD Projekt RED. He says this: I have a small announcement to make. Not a huge change for me, but happy for what's next. And let's take a look at the video that he posted here. As you can see, he changed his job title, from environmental artist to weapon artist, as you can see right here. So what does this mean for Cyberpunk 2077? Of course, we should be expecting new DLC for this game, free DLC, and it looks like they're gearing up to create new weapons for the game. That is going to be my assessment right there. But also, this could indicate as well that Mikel could also be eventually working on The Witcher 4, which is going to be a little ways away, of course, because they got to fix Cyberpunk. They want to do Cyberpunk multiplayer. They want to do Cyberpunk DLC. A lot of stuff that's going to be happening for Cyberpunk first and foremost. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what type of new weapons they could possibly create. You know, in one of my most recent videos, I was fascinated by one of the top comments from you guys. You were mentioning how you found the loot to be kind of underwhelming in this game. I gotta ask, what would you like to see added to Cyberpunk 2077? Please sound off in the comments below. Let me know what type of weapons you would like to see, and also any type of story-driven DLC quest, what type of characters you would like to see expanded upon, perhaps companions, that sort of thing. Go for it. All right, also, Powell says this: our badass cinematic design crew is looking for new acolytes. If you know what it takes to make Judy perform like this, give it a shot. So they are actually recruiting for jobs at CD Projekt RED, which means that they are expanding and looking for new talent, and they are working on getting content up and running for Cyberpunk 2077, which is really good news. Perhaps they are actually having a dedicated team towards the DLC and free content coming up, and then also a dedicated team who is working on actually fixing the game. It shouldn't be one team trying to do both, in my opinion. It should be one core focused team on fixing the game, improving the game, and then also a team that is adding in that extra content and also missing features. So it looks like they're going in that direction. Now let's talk about this one right here. This comes from Screen Rant. It says Cyberpunk 2077 should have taken one feature from Elder Scrolls. Let's take a look. It says, when Cyberpunk 2077 was announced as a first-person open-world experience, it immediately had a lot to live up to. Not only was it CD Projekt RED's follow-up to the critically acclaimed The Witcher series, but it was also now stepping into the territory of games from studios like Bethesda. For all the interesting storytelling and memorable characters CD Projekt RED packed into Cyberpunk 2077's Night City, it arguably failed to create the same type of cohesive world that exists in games like The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, in part due to Night City's static nature. Let me know if you agree with this. I know a lot of you actually do. It says, Bethesda's Elder Scrolls and Fallout games of the last decade plus are more than just RPGs. They're iconic worlds many players want to live in. There's just something about such an expansive first-person game that captures the imagination, and this is especially the case with Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, a game that's nearing its 10-year anniversary but has yet to be topped in certain aspects, which is absolutely incredible because, in my opinion, Elder Scrolls still to this day has one of the best, if not best, open worlds in so many ways, and it's tough to compete with it even 10 years later. Goes on to say this: there's a reason why Bethesda is able to keep porting Skyrim to so many platforms, because it offers an immersive experience like no other. The citizens of Tamriel aren't standing still waiting for a player's input. They're living out their lives, going from their job to their home and conversing with their neighbors. Now, this right here was actually a promised feature from the devs at CD Projekt RED for Cyberpunk 2077, and it's one of the features that was actually cut or considered cut content that a lot of you want to see added back into the game as well. Now let's keep going. It says here, it's not a perfect system, but it's pretty impressive for 2011, especially when compared to what CD Projekt RED was able to come up with in 2020 for 2027. And then it goes on to say this: part of Cyberpunk's comparative inaccuracy could be because its NPCs are static characters, sometimes existing as little more than quest markers. For example, in Elder Scrolls games, players have the chance to attack and even kill NPCs, which could shut them out of quest lines or turn them against other factions. Even if most players don't want to mess with the story in that way, it creates a grand spectrum of opportunity that doesn't exist in Cyberpunk 2077. So it creates opportunity as well as replayability, which a lot of you guys feel that also Cyberpunk 2077 isn't exactly the most replayable game at all. And I think one of the reasons is because of, what they're showcasing in Skyrim here in this article is how dynamic these factions are, especially to one another, which opens up, that replayability for sure. Now, the article furthermore goes on to say this: it's clear that there were plenty of cut corners in Cyberpunk 2077, so perhaps some of this immersion fell by the wayside. Still, the fact that NPCs are required to tell out the story in Cyberpunk speaks to the lack of options the player truly has as they go on their adventure. If a story vital NPC were to be killable in Cyberpunk 2077, there would be few options for the game to fall back on. Much like how there are only a few romantic options baked into the experience, there are only a few groups V can meaningfully interact with, and taking even one of those away would make the story wholly incomplete. So they're talking about how linear the game actually is, despite it being very open, and you could also see that in the game's life paths as well. Now, the game finally, the article, finishes up by saying this: once CD Projekt RED gets a handle on the mini bugs and glitches affecting Cyberpunk 2077, the developer does have more content in the works for the game. Both paid and free Cyberpunk DLC is on the way, and perhaps that will also bring updates that liven up Night City and bring it more in line with Bethesda's open worlds. For all the bugs inherent with any game world of this size, the release of Cyberpunk shows just how impressive even the lesser Elder Scrolls and Fallout games truly are, and how far other franchises have to come to make their digital worlds feel just as lived in. Now, I could give them the excuse that, hey, Cyberpunk is the first game in the franchise, but then you have to realize this is not CD Projekt RED's first game. They had the Witcher franchise, The Witcher 1, 2, 3. They had tons of experience that there's no excuse that they couldn't, in my opinion, compete with the Elder Scrolls in terms of NPCs. I mean, this is like 2020 release we're talking about here, not a 2011 game. Now, let's talk about the big game that hopes to avoid the fate that Cyberpunk went through during its release. It's Halo Infinite. This is a game that keeps appearing in articles, and I can't personally wait for it. I'm super hyped for it. Hopefully they get it right. It says here, Halo Infinite is coming possibly a full year after Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S console launched, but the game's developers appear confident that lower spec Xbox One consoles should run the game fine. January iteration of the regular Inside Infinite development, which was teased but a few days prior, dives into the development process happening at 343 Studios, including the work being done to ensure Halo Infinite is optimized for every platform, from Xbox One and PC to Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. This is the comments from that briefing. It says, here's something that excites me as an engineering architect, writes Danielle Giannotti, Game Foundation architect for the upcoming Halo game. For Halo Infinite, we rebuilt the engine multi-threading solution to ensure high execution efficiency across all platforms and PCs. Instead of running optimally just on Xbox One. We used this new system to transition the renderer to a massively parallel multi-threaded framework to support the increased cost of all of our new rendering features and achieve high graphics efficiency on PC CPUs of various size, as well as Xbox Series XS and Xbox One XS hardware. In practice, this means that we are doing our very best to make sure Halo Infinite runs optimally on any device you may choose to play on. Let's hope that is true, because remember, they were also saying the same thing about Cyberpunk 2077 as well. So let's cross our fingers that this Halo Infinite can run really well on all platforms. Let me know what platform you plan to get Halo Infinite on, if you plan to get Halo Infinite at all. It'll be releasing, it seems, on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. And again, I'm hoping that turns out to be a really good game. I'm glad they actually delayed it. You know, that's a good sign right there, in my opinion, that they were able to put the brakes on the game and say, you know what, we're not ready. We don't want to make that huge mistake at launch like we've seen with Cyberpunk 2077. So at least they were that aware to delay the game. All right, it's time for your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. All right, my most recent video was called A Big Warning About Custom Saves and Mods. Elon Musk roast the game. Oh my god, he has been busy, let me tell you what. So let's go to the first top comment right here. This comes from Ruben. It says, this reminds me when they threw a metal ball at the Cybertruck and the windows shattered when Elon said the windows were damn near indestructible. Oh my god, that was such a classic moment. Cyberflame says, Elon switched sides real quick, LOL. Young Jay says, loot systems wouldn't be that bad if every legendary didn't look the same. The second conflict legendary is the exact same as the NCPD, legendary, just different color and design. So Young Jay calling out the laziness right there with some of these legendary loots and weapons in the game. Ninja Seagull says the loot system in Cyberpunk is similar to a looter shooter games. Your character loots a lot of stuff that mostly gets salvaged. It feels like very simple and last minute result for the looting system in Cyberpunk. Perhaps it was kind of rushed at the last minute, you know, you never know. A lot of stuff seemed to be kind of rushed in Cyberpunk in terms of development. Patrick says Elon's name in game should be Neon Tusk and sport a pair of neon tusks. Saviti Man says, I just want water physics, a better wanted system and AI. First time I've seen someone mention the water physics, and there's a lot of theories that there was supposed to be some sort of accessible underground city by water, and they just were like, we don't care about the water physics because we aren't even throwing in the underground city. So that's another theory as to why the water physics, are so weak in Cyberpunk. But there's the latest happenings and news around Cyberpunk 2077. Again, I hope to expand into some other open world games coverage. So let me know what you would like to see for sure in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.